major stakeholder in the IoT implementation for aviation industry is airports, because these are someone who are interface to the passengers as well as with the airlines. So definitely there are some solutions which are mainly required by the airports. And third is the passenger,
Sir,
which
there is a echo.
Let me see, because I think my cell is also off, so I don't think there is any. Can you? Is it still there echo or?
No, it is clear now, sir. Now it is clear. You go ahead, sir.
Okay. So the third stakeholder in this implementation is passengers. And this is the major focus. Where most of the implementations are there. Now, what are primary operations when IoT is implemented in aviation? One is the real-time data, and this is the most important thing in aviation side, because, as I said, the reputation of the airline is very much needed or affected when when the operations are very very smooth. So, how the operations can be smooth when you maintain your aircrafts, and maintenance of the aircraft is a major factor in airline, and also one of the biggest cost factor also, in terms of operations revenue. So the real-time data is needed from all those parts from the airlines, and we will explore a couple of real applications where the data is coming from the engines as well as the various parts of the aircraft. And this data comes, and then there is an analysis which happens, and based on that, the preventive maintenance and the scheduled maintenance happens for the aircraft. And there are very known systems called AHM, which is called Aircraft Health Monitoring Systems, which collect this data. And a very common thing which you might have heard everywhere is a black box. Now, the terminology or the way it is happening now has changed. So earlier the black box was something like a hardware which goes into aircraft, and then people used to collect it after the accident or whatever. But now the terminology has changed. So what is happening now? A real-time data get transferred to the servers on the ground, and based on that data, it's called position report of the aircraft. All the sensors fitted in the aircraft collect the data and pass it on to the ground station, and then the analysis has been made. Whether a particular maintenance has to be scheduled or we can preempt the maintenance. So there are typical words for it. There's called FOCA and MOCA, which is like flight operations, quality assurance, and maintenance operations. So the IoT plays a very important role in maintenance operations of the aircraft, and for that you need a real-time data collection. Second, primary operations, which is in IoT, is basically the passenger comfort. And this passenger comfort is, if you look at most of the applications which are available in the market, which use beacons technology. I hope everyone knows what the beacons and RFID stuff. But these are the two major interface factors in IoT implementation airlines. So beacons are basically the Bluetooth low energy devices which emits a unique identification, and based on that, various people have developed applications which are around beacon systems. So the passenger comfort applications, or the applications around passengers, are relying on devices like beacons and the RFIDs. So this is the second part of the primary operations which happen in aviation IoT. The third is reliability. And as I said earlier, the maintenance operations is the most important thing for airlines. So the reliability of operations is again a prime factor, and you need a data to take decisions related to that. So the sensor network or the sensors put it on the various devices in the aircraft, right from engine to the wings, is basically having an IoT implementation nowadays. Third is the compliance part. And this compliance is something like, every change or every maintenance or every operations of the aircraft has to be reported through certain documentation. And this documentation has a standard to be followed. So the Civil Aviation Authority defines certain standards. And this standard has to be complied by every stakeholder in the aviation industry. And there are standards for it. So there's something standard called DO 178 A, B, C, D, and E. So these standards has to be followed when certain operations happens in airlines. Now the IoT helps in doing this. So I just put one example there. See, the thing is, when you repair any hardware or any part of the airline, the agency which manufactures it cannot certify it, or cannot test it, and that is the standard which is there. Then there is a SOP to repair the operations, like particular spares of a aircraft. Now that SOP is not followed, it's very difficult, for the agency to certify that it has been repaired properly. So how to collect that information that it has been repaired properly? There the IoT helps. Like the data coming from the videos or the movements of the screws or the spares or the removal of the spares get recorded using a various sensors, and this information get passed on. The very interesting thing which we'll look at the last slide of the presentation is on a smart waters. So away from like RFID, like if you know that the evaluation of this technology of tracking, initially there was a 2D barcode and then it becomes a QR code. Now people go with the RFID. Then in RFID also people talk about HF, UHF, something like that, right? And now people are just talking about beacons. Now further to that, there is another technology coming up called a smart waters. Now, the smart waters is something which is a unique identification or a chemical DNA which can identify the uniqueness of a certain things. And how this is useful in aviation industry as a part of IoT, we'll see in the last slide of this presentation. But just to give you awareness that counterfeiting is something which airlines want to track. Like say when you go for a car repair, so you don't go to the local repair shop, right? Because you are not sure about the genuineness of the spares. But when you go to a service centers of a particular car manufacturer, then you can see that okay, the spares are genuine. So in the aircraft also, it happens the same way. The aircraft spares which you want to put it in the aircraft has a life, and everyone wants to understand how many times this spare has gone repair or reused or something like that. So how to do a tracking is basically people are nowadays using smart waters technology. So we will see that as a part of IoT implementation, what is there in aviation. So these are the stages of sensor implementation and everything. So that's there. And the last part is basically the safety. So as I said, the maintenance is very important. So that's the reason you need to ensure that there is a safety of the aircraft, and safety of the aircraft gets achieved through FDM, which is called flight data monitoring, and FDR, which is called flight data recording. So FDM and FDR are two things, which basically collect the data, and you can see a huge data coming out. Some of the flights of 8 hours flight can generate something around 150 GB of data, and this 150 of data GB of data has to be analyzed and then taken out certain decisions out of it. So if you look at the implementation, there is a huge system in place to process IoT data and getting the decision made as a AI or AR. Now, going to the next slide, as I said, there are many parts of it. So first part is basically the airworthiness checks where the IoT can help in aviation. Then there are many assets in the aircrafts, and those assets has to be tracked very rigorously. For example, you might have traveled in the aircraft, and everyone talk about the life vest in the aircraft, right? And every seat has a life vest beside it or below it. Now, uh, very few of you might be knowing that before the aircraft takes off in the morning, all the assets get checked or verified. For example, if a particular seat doesn't have a life vest below it, they cannot fly. Now, when you do this, I'll show you one of the application which talks about that is, it's called life vest tracking system. That means you track, where there is a life vest below the seat, and then you also check the manufacturer's expiry that, those, what is the life of that life vest, and that is to be replaced. Now, when you talk about any normal airline nowadays, which actually happens, say 2 to 3 years back, there was something called D check. And during D check, they remove every life vest, check the expiry, and put it back. With the IoT implementation now, the cycle of 1.5 hour or 2 hours, which takes for the aircraft to check, has reduced to 7 to 8 minutes. That means you can understand, the every implementation is boiled down to the revenue optimization or revenue improve. Because if you're trying to save 1.5 hour of checking time, that means you get more time to fly. And when you have more time to fly, that means your revenue has increased because you can increase one more flight schedule. Then Then future of the LRU cycle is also very important things, because this is called line runnable units, which actually keep an inventory stock, based on what is your preventive maintenance or scheduled maintenance coming up. Then there are many things, like for example, you might have seen recently, you can have a check-in baggage, or you can have web check-ins happening and all that. Okay, then based on the priority check, you might have seen a priority check-ins and all that. So how it is happening is, you will see after some days, maybe in a couple of years, you will see you get a very prioritized queue. If you are a frequent flyers or frequent travelers, you people don't have to look at your badge, or something which you are basically wearing. Once you enter into the airport, people can get you a very priority treatment, based on your travel history and your preferences. And the fourth, as I said, life vest, first aid kits, doctor kits. There are many assets, in the aircraft which you can track using IoT. Going to the next slide. These are some of the IoT applications which you are browsing through the presentation for next 1.5 hours. A smart passenger system, which basically now, right, everywhere the feel of ownership is coming up. For example, if you go to any of the stores in, say, Louis Philippe or Van Heusen, the technology is coming up where all your shirts or trousers, whatever you're buying, is coming up with certain IoT devices. That means something like RFID tags or something like that. So, for example, you go somewhere today to a Louis Philippe and buy a white shirt, and you keep on buying white shirt. So Louis Philippe or Madura Garments will know that you like white shirts. So next time when you go to any of the shop, your profile gets addressed, and the salesperson will know that you like white shirts, and he will start giving you a variety of white shirts. And this is what now the passenger comfort, or the customer comfort is coming up. We developed one application for one of the resorts chains in US. It's around 1,800 resorts. It's aggregator of resorts. So you'll understand how the money has been spent on the travelers' preferences. So if you like certain beer, and it's there in your a mini bar in your room, so next time when you go, your mini bar will be filled with that particular beer. There are certain people who like certain color in their room, and the resorts in US and all these islands are basically painting your rooms based on your preferences. Similar thing is coming up on the airline side, where this IoT will help you to define the passenger preferences. So you watch certain movies when you go inside the aircraft, the preference get recorded. If you go and buy certain things, on the aircraft, the preference get recorded. If you drink something, you eat something, so all your preferences get recorded, and next time when you go, you will be given a preferential treatment based on that. So this is something coming up, now, and this is called smart passenger systems with IoT implementation. Now you can understand, very small thing, but it's very important thing. Like cameras near the laboratories. It basically just wait, it's basically monitor the waiting time, and and based on that, it basically gives you how many toilets or how to build the aircraft next time. Because if when just for a knowledge purpose, when you buy an aircraft there is nothing inside. It's just you have to design your own aircraft inside and giving the stuff. So this data will help you to decide what is the average time, and even the waste management strategies also can be defined using this kind of monitoring devices. Now, baggage tracking, it's the most important thing, and all airlines, every airports, you will see, this is getting implemented. Now, for us, it's a very easy thing, right? You go to the airport, you drop your bag, you come back and you take the bag out. Now, there is a lot of impact on it, and the biggest impact is basically the aircraft waiting time. Now, you'll understand the revenue part of it, how it get lost in, like how the airlines get huge loss, because the more the aircraft is on, that means your engine is on, the fuel is getting wasted. Now, if someone takes more time, to load a particular things, a baggage or a passenger loading, and that's the reason you can see when you go to any airports, airlines people or ground handling guys are just going around and asking, making announcements and making sure that you board the aircraft very fast. It just to avoid the fuel usage of it, because if you keep your engines less on, before you take off, the maximum profit can be achieved in the fuel consumption. Same thing happens with the baggage. Now, bag can be a very important thing. One is basically from a reputation perspective. If you don't get a bag at the airport on time, okay, there's a panic among the passengers. Second, if you lost the baggage, say you travel to any other country and you don't get the baggage on time, okay, definitely there is the insurance comes up and insurance people have to pay money. So more such incidences happens, the airline will lose its reputation. Same thing, there's a big loss from a revenue or insurance point of view. Third things, it might happen that the biggest challenge which we have seen while implementing the baggage tracking system is, say your bag has been given in a different airline, and by mistake someone types, instead of Calicut, someone types Kolkata, the ground handling staff, when he takes the bag, and it has gone to the Calcutta. Now it's very difficult if you understand on the time that the bag has come out wrongly on another aircraft. The biggest challenge in this case is to remove the bag from one aircraft and putting it to another aircraft, because you need to locate bag and then give it back to the another aircraft, which takes maximum time, and that delays your flight schedule. Same thing happens in case of any suspicion happens. So for example, your bag has been checked in, and now the security agencies identify you as one of the suspect, and then you have to deboard the plane. Now when you have to deboard the aircraft, okay, your bag also has to be removed. Now identifying where your bag lies in the aircraft on the cargo side, it's very difficult for you to remove it on time, and that delays the aircraft. And these are very small things. These are incidences happens very frequently at the airports and airlines, which we as a passengers will not know much. But if you look at from a operation side, your next flight get delayed, then further there's an impact on your ground staff and all that. All this has been addressed using a IoT, and very effectively. And if you look at now, 30% of the airlines in the entire world started using this bag tracking system. And the big company in aviation software is SITA. You might have heard, this is basically a ticketing system as well. They have SITA and Aring are the two big companies in aviation software. So SITA is using now this system to do a backtracking. For us, it's very small thing, because we get our bag and we go out of the airport. But behind the scene, there are a lot of things happens like this. Then non-aeronautical revenue generation. That means, it's not just a ticket, which you buy, right? It's not just a revenue for aircraft. It's even the F&B stuff, right? The food and beverages which you eat at the airport, or you may bought duty-free items and all that. So your entire behavior get tracked on the airport, and based on that, a lot of preferences, a lot of recommendations has been made to the passengers on his mobile app or mobile devices. So these are something which is another implementation coming up on our IoT side at the airports thing. And as I said, improving FOCA and MOCA, which is like flight operations and quality assurances, and maintenance operation quality assurances. So these are the just to improve the operations of the airlines. Now, we work with many of these companies. As I said, the basic devices which are happening is either the RFID or the beacons. There are other wireless sensors which has been currently used, or even customized hardware which has been used to collect the data from various systems. So there are two aspects coming up from a technology perspective. One is change the existing devices or systems to enable the IoT, or there is another thing called a kind of plugin which you plug it to the existing system, and your existing system becomes IoT enabled. So very easy or easiest thing to implement it is basically the beacons. So these are a couple of famous beacons available in the market which has been used in the industry. Estimote is one of the top leading one which has been used as most of the airports and airlines. Now, as I said, passengers, let's look at now out of three, let's look at one by one, what are the three stakeholders and how the IoT can help them in doing this. So what are the stages of any passengers at the airline? So one is basically you check in at home. So you do a web check-in. And once you do the web check-in, you basically, once you enter into the airports, you should know, airports should know whom you are. So issue a welcome message. It's like very personalized message. You do this, and on your phones you keep on getting, the alerts about your life cycle. Like you board, you do a security check or something like that. Now you, as I said, your entire family history is also available. You have a kid at home, so once you reach out to any of the toy shop, you get offers immediately on that, and it all happens through a beacon systems. So the beacons gives you a location, and based on the apps implementation, you get alerts coming out from a nearby shops in the airport. Then you basically go for baggage. So you fly in the aircraft. In the aircraft, the crew will get preferences about you. You get specialized treatment based on your preferences, and then you land it. Once you land it, your baggage has been already identified, get on the belt, and immediately on your alert, once it comes to your belt, you get an alert saying that your baggage arrived. So if you look at, the people have done a lot of analysis, and they found that people reach out to a baggage, like the gate, 50% or even 65% of the people have a fear that they will be at a wrong gate all the time. So people reach out to the gate 30 minutes, 40 minutes in advance. Even though they checked in and have a security check, they sit near the gate, okay, thinking that they might lose the aircraft. Now if you look at the trends which is happening now, from a climate change and all this stuff, people are even making a silent airport. You might have heard, even Pune, if you look at, is a silent airport.
I'll put a two pneumatic limit switch at the beginning of the piston and at the end of the piston. At the end of the piston.
Hello?
Continue, sir. There is a disturbance through some of the participants.
Oh, okay. So as I said, there are silent airports, and now there is no announcement. So people have a psych that they will not reach on time in the aircraft. So the beacon technology helps you to even guide you to the right aircraft. So when you are basically, say for example, you have a layover in between. So you are basically going to US and you landed at Frankfurt, and from Frankfurt you have another connecting flight to the next destination. Now Frankfurt Airport is very big, or you might not know where how the aircraft like airport is structured and all that. So it's very difficult for you to locate the next gate. So based on your travel history or travel itinerary, the mobile app will help you on the indoor positioning. So the beacons also help you in doing indoor positioning as a part of IoT. Now these are all the life cycle and how the system can help you in a comfort travel. Now these are the stages which we have analyzed, and what kind of applications can be there in between. So for passengers or traveler generally, arrival, check-in, security, airport activities, boarding aircraft, departure, arrival. So this is the life cycle of any passenger when you want to travel. And what are the type of applications, which are available or can be developed using IoT? So airlines, we have backtracking and indoor navigation apps. As I said earlier, GPS can be very effective outside a particular building, or premises. But indoor positioning is now happening with iBeacons using either a cellular triangulation kind of a system, and then where in the airport where you are exactly, and it can guide you in the navigation maps. And this is very common nowadays. If you go to any of the, even in Mumbai airport, when you go, GVK has developed a similar application where you can get indoor positioning of entire Mumbai airport with Chhatrapati Shivaji, Maharashtra Terminus airport there. Then another thing is lining of ground staff. So if you know that the aircraft is coming, and this many passengers and this is the things, so you can basically align your ground staff to meet that requirement. And this is also another way of tracking the information which is available in the aircraft. Another interesting thing which is on the revenue side, which very few people know about airport or airlines operation, is that weight is the biggest factor in aircraft. So you might be knowing, and just out of the box or out of the topic discussion, See, you might have seen the yatra.com or make my trip and all that. And everyone has a doubt that, when you book it one day before a travel, your tickets are very high, right? And there's something called GDS, or that's called Global Distribution System, which basically define the pricing. Now, no one knows in the airline or aircraft how many seats are vacant. And this is kept confidential very just for the reason there is no security or safety reason behind it, because it's purely a revenue management system. That means instead of carrying 150-kilo passenger in an aircraft, it's always easy or more profitable to carry 50 kg of cargo in the aircraft. Okay, so knowing how many people are there, in the aircraft, what is their weight, what is the bag capacity, and all that, which is getting loaded. There are two aspects of it. One is lighter the aircraft, the less is the fuel consumption. Second, there is enough space for the weight to be loaded in the aircraft, the more revenue, because more cargo can be loaded into the aircraft. And this is how the entire technology is helping airlines to become profitable. And you can see and you can understand how many IoT kind of applications can be implemented in the aircraft operations, to improve the revenue. And just for your information, it's all the revenue management. All airlines, everyone is going for high technology implementations just to save their money. That's all. Now, vendors to airports, is all asset tracking. Queue analyzer, is something at the security and customs and aviation authorities. So people will know, how many people are going to board this particular aircraft. We have developed a very interesting and innovative application, using a boarding pass. So what happens, you might have heard, a very small thing. When you go to the airport, you might have seen, Mr. Joshi, last and final boarding call for you to land, board the aircraft and all that. Every time you miss out your flight, and the ground handling staff is just screaming, like this, right? What we have done at Kanpur airport is basically we implemented as a pilot system from, Airport Authority of India. What we have done is we put all sensors around, and the boarding pass will have a tamper-proof RFID UHF tags pasted on the boarding pass. Now, wherever you go, you know the zone where you are in. So the ground staff need not have to, pronounce or announce your name to look at you. She just go to a particular zone and know that, you are in that particular zone. And she just, based on other mobile apps and all that, she will know where you are. And she will only talk to those 10, 15 people in that zone and get you out. So this is, again, saving a lot of time for the aircraft operations, which is actually leading to the saving of money. Now, this is a sample application, which is available for Mumbai Airport. You can download and you can start using it. Once you enter into the area, you get tracked. So this is developed by GVK, which is actually the airport operation company at Mumbai. So you get your flight details. You get like your particular, say you are a vegetarian, your preference gets saved. And any vegetarian restaurant around, you sit, will be get popped up. Any offers coming up, it gets popped up. So this is something which is available, and this is called a passenger experience, which people are giving you. Now, this is the live face tracking, which I said, there's a D check happens every day in the morning. And the D check earlier used to take 1.5 hours to 2 hours in the morning to check all the assets. And I will also show you how many assets are there in the aircraft. So all these assets get tracked using UHF tags. And you just go in the aisle and all the entire aircraft gets scanned in 7 minutes. So the 1.5 hour time, is getting reduced to 7 minutes, which is a very tremendous operational efficiency coming up. And this data gets moved, to your maintenance records as well. So it happens two things. One is basically the maintenance record get updated, and second is your availability of aircraft for flying is more. That means you can do one more flight, say from Mumbai to Nagpur, and get additional revenue coming out. So these are something, the tags which are there, So this is how it works. You have an entire data of your assets, put it into systems. You have a hardware which is there, which tracks. It can be a standard Android mobile as well. which with additional plug-in sensors of UHF, you can scan the entire aircraft and various assets. It can be life vest, it can be oxygen cylinders, it can be first aid kits. Now look at, there are 23 type of assets in the aircraft, which everyone wants to track. And if you start removing everything and ensuring that, it's there or not, it takes a lot of time. So, this is how happening in the system. So you have fire extinguishers, you have ELTs and first aid kits, everything. So this is a very interesting application, which is right now, getting used, and slowly, it's getting implemented all over the world. Now, as I said, the airports are the second level of, the stakeholders in this. So we already discussed a couple of things, like it's a passenger self-service terminals. You can see nowadays the kiosk coming up with boarding pass and all that, and you get tracked, at every part of the airport where you are, and you get alerts. Now, airport operations, you can see a photograph on the bottom side, which says wait time passenger is 18 minutes. And this is where the AI comes in. So people understand that, the average time takes for the particular person to check in and, go to the gate is something around this. You can see that on the Mumbai airport also, that when you go to a particular gate number to 1 to 10, you saw what is your normal, movement time, and you will see you will reach in 5 minutes, 7 minutes. Currently, it's all hard coded, but slowly the AI will come in picture, and it will be dynamic time. Based on how many people are there in the queue to do a security check and all that. This is all happening now with all video recording, as well as facial recognitions and all that stuff. As I said, the analytics coming up is basically the passengers which move inside the airport, and wherever you go, all your preferences get recorded, and then the specialized preference has been given. So these are some of the airport operation related applications which are there in the market, having a IoT part of it. Now, this is, as I said, most of the people are more worried about reaching the gate on time, and then you get a comfort of having all this data coming from various locations at the airport, giving you a feedback, how much time it should take for you to reach the gate. Then, it also guides you if there is a change in the gate number as well. So sometimes, you are coming from other country, and, at the Legor, now on your boarding pass, maybe particular gate is mentioned, but on the existing time, the gate might have changed. So you get all alerts and all the guidance, the navigations, indoor navigations on your mobile apps. But again, the backbone of everything infrastructure is the beacons. Now, as I said, these are, we already covered. This is called baggage tracking system, which is already there, and people have already started implementing it. Now, there are certain things, which also improve the optimization of the traffic on the airlines. Now, there are two aspects, which I can just give you from an electronics background, from a hardware perspective. So you might have seen a lot of helicopters, and these helicopters have a very specialized function called SAR, or that's called search and rescue operations. So you might have seen the medical emergencies, or you might have seen a search and rescue in mountains and all that, where people go for mountaineering, and the helicopters pick up those people, who got stuck up. Or even you might have seen during our flood situations in Sangli and all these places, you just pick up the people on the ground through helicopters, right? Now, for us, it's very easy operation, right? That, you take a helicopter, you drop a rope, and, you take a rope and, get the guy up. But then what happens, in aircraft terminology, people talk it as something called a 9 degree of freedom. That means, the aircraft can move in 9 degrees. Okay. So 9 degrees means, it's like east, west, south, something like that, vertical 2 positions, and in between, something like that. So these are 9 positions where the aircraft can move. Now the mechanical guys can understand well, that there is something called design, the frame design of the helicopter, and the terminology is called roll, yaw, and pitch. So this roll, yaw, and pitch is something, like how much in what degree your aircraft stays for how much time. And this data is very important from a maintenance perspective. So generally, what happens is pilots, what they do is they tilt the aircraft. They tilt the helicopters to see where the patient or where the person is. And then they have to become straight and then drop a rope. But it's very easy for the pilot to see the person, and it's easy for him to get the rope down and get the person up. So he kept the same helicopter in the same fashion, the tilted fashion, and then that basically damaged the entire frame of the aircraft. Because the roll yaw and pitch is giving a lot of stress on the aircraft, and it basically can damage the entire frame of the aircraft, and it has to undergo immediate maintenance of it. Now, pilot will not tell you that he tilted the aircraft. So there are chips and there are hardware in the aircraft, or helicopters, is basically a chip which gives you. It has a gyroscope in it. It has accelerometer in it. It has the it can give all the dimensions of it, and that data get recorded as a position reports and send it back to the ground station as a part of a position report systems. And based on that, the maintenance gets finalized. Similarly, what in a big aircraft, so there is something called fixed wing aircraft, like the normal aircraft which comes in. Here, say you are a new pilot. Sorry, a pilot is new and he doesn't know where to go. So it says, okay, go to gate number 15. Now the guy is landing at the runway, so he requests there is something called follow me jips. And this project we have done it with Bangalore International Airport with Airbus. So Airbus has something called BizLab. And just for since most of the people are from colleges, I will also give you a very interesting connect there. There's something called BizLab from Airbus. And if any of your college want to do some innovative projects with Airbus, you can reach out to those guys. They created an open source platform and you can build solutions around that. So we were a part of BizLab, and we developed a system with Bangalore International Airport to optimize the traffic at Bangalore, and then it becomes a standardized everywhere. So the way I'm saying that a pilot is a new and he doesn't know where to go, so he requests for something called follow me jeeps, and these follow me jeeps are something which goes in front of aircraft, and it basically follows like the aircraft follows that jeep, and the jeep takes him to the a particular gate. For us, it's very easy impression, right? You just land and then the jeep goes and it takes the aircraft. But the busy airport like Mumbai or Bangalore or Delhi, where there is every 3 minutes there is one aircraft takeoff or landing, it's very difficult for the follow me jeeps to go and stand there. So in front of you there is an aircraft, the jeep is below, and the guy has landed. Now there is no way that you can take the jeep out unless this guy goes on the runway. And this entire optimization happens through something called ADSB routers. So this is another hardware which goes into the aircraft, which keep on sending a signals back to the ground stations. And there are ADSB routers on every asset of it, which keep on tracking and have a navigation system, which basically guide you when to go and when to land this particular jeep at the particular place. So you can understand, and this is a very common thing now. There is a website called Flight Radar 24. So many of you might have gone through that particular website. It gives you a position of every aircraft in the world right away, today itself. It can give you at this location how many aircrafts are there. And this is all worked on an ADSB system. ADSB routers are installed everywhere. You might have heard about MH70 incidents in Malaysia, right? The aircraft has met with an accident and no one was able to trace it out. This is another thing, a new technology called CPDLC, which is coming up, again based on the sensor network, which gives you a position through a satellites or using a satellite communication. So if you look at most of the thing, everyone is going towards real-time data collection, and this real-time data collection is through some devices, and you can see there's a huge applications in the market nowadays coming up with a very high-tech, high accuracy and high precision implementations. So as I said, this is like enhancing flight efficiency is also, using a lot of IT systems, AR systems, and IoT systems to collect the data from aircrafts and doing a planning exercise. Now, since we are talking about many, advantage of it and all that, it has also its own challenges in the system. Even the smallest system right now, has certain challenges. One is the cost. The biggest thing is basically the hardware is very costly. Beacons itself are very costly to have the implementation. Nowadays, people are coming out with cheaper options.
But if you want to write essays that inspire, messages that forge.
Hello. Yeah. So this is something which is cost is another big factor which is affecting the implementation of this. Uh, we were trying to explore some Indian manufacturers under Startup India, and we identified a couple of people who manufacture beacons in India as well. So the cost is coming down as well for Indian implementation. But if you want to import and all that, the cost is very high. So that's another deterrent or factor, for implementation of IoT in many of the aviation part. It's complex in installation because there's no standardization happening. Okay, everyone has his own protocol to implement, so you have to develop standard libraries. If you stick to particular vendor like a Libelium and all that, you can understand that there can be standardization. But again, there is a lot of complexity in installation of various IoT devices. Aviation is a very high compliance industry. As I said, you need to undergo every certification for everything which you go and put in, right from the cloth which goes as a chair like seat cover, which has to undergo a burn test and fire retardant and fire resistant test. Similarly, even the RFID tags which we put in the aircraft also has to undergo certain tests, because it should not be active tags, it should be passive. Anything emit frequency, anything emits the electromagnetic things has to be tested, making sure that there is a airworthiness for it. So that means anything, if you want to get into the aviation IoT business, it has to be tested and validated by approving agencies. So implementation takes a lot of time when it comes to doing a systems like this. But once you get authorization, that means you are the prime vendor or prime suppliers to that system. Design guidelines. So there's something called supplementary type certifications. This is called STC. So every aircraft frame is different. So when you talk about 757, 777, or Airbus 320, or ATRs, or Bombardier, every aircraft is a separate thing. So if you develop a system which should go into the aircraft, you need to have a certification from every manufacturer. That means where it should go, how much power it should draw, what lines, what kind of wiring you need to make, and all that has to be approved and certified by the manufacturer. And that is called STF. That's called supplementary type certification, STC, which you have to get it from every aircraft manufacturer. So the challenge in having an IoT in aviation also has this biggest challenge, which is called design guidelines compliances. Okay, so but slowly what happening is, people are moving towards that. People are coming out with standardization, and once the standardization is achieved, data collection is not a big thing. So these are challenges, and I guess people are overcoming that. Now, as I said, there is a latest technology coming up called smart waters. Now, the theory behind it is that the spares of any aircraft can be reused or rotated, but there is a process for it. So when you remove a particular a part from the aircraft, okay, it is as good as uncertified. That is, unless it has been certified by the certain companies or certain approving agencies, you cannot reuse back into the aircraft. Now the thing is, how do you know that these aircraft are genuine or original? They are all original equipment manufacturers' devices. It can be counterfeited also, and counterfeit can be a biggest threat to the aircraft safety. So the new stuff coming up. Earlier, people used to have a barcodes, or people used to have laser QR codes printed on those parts, where you can scan it and that this is basically the original equipment. But those can be copied, or those can be counterfeited. Now things are coming up called smart waters kind of a technology, which is called a chemical DNA. Now this chemical DNA, you put it on any of the aircraft spares, and the the equipment manufacturer or the spares manufacturer will have its own signature of the chemical. So no one can basically duplicate that chemical on the repository or inventory side. So once you put this chemical on the spares with a certain UV readers, you know whether this particular equipment is original or not. And this is where now the technology or the systems are going through. So with this equipment, you can understand, what the history of it, how many times it has been removed, how many cycles it has undergone repair, and all that. So MROs, which is called maintenance, repair, and overall agencies in aviation, are using this now as a next level of compliances for the standards. So this is all about the IoT part of it, which is like the implementation of IoT in aviation. If you have any questions, I think we can take it up.
The participants who wants to ask any questions, please raise your hand, and they can unmute themselves and they can ask the questions.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
I'm Kruti Sharma. So, after listening to this, I have a query. Sir, what about the privacy and security system? Because of this IoT, we are like more familiarized to many of the things. That means a system can identify what I want, what I like, everything. But how far it is good in taking care of privacy and security?
Yeah, so GDPR is something which is getting impacted big way. Okay,
Okay.
like your privacy information is it's a drawback of IoT implementation where your privacy is impacted big way. So now people are coming up with certain way of hiding your personal information. Okay, so again it comes to a GDPR part. Okay, so there are two things, right? Like currently the TikTok and all that stuff which is getting impacted big way on this, right?
Yes.
So what is
Yes.
happening is one is the consent, right? As I said, we develop one system for resorts in US, which is called level 5 system. Now, in US, many people are having an allergy of peanuts, and if even there are deaths also which is happening with the peanuts, and those allergies are very personal to a person. That means, see, you cannot disclose, because this is basically violating your personal information, right? And exposing that information to a resource that your bar should not have a peanuts packets is something which can be misused. Even say people say that if someone has to be like, if I want to kill that particular person having allergy, I can have him feed some peanuts, right? So definitely the privacy is a biggest factor here. Okay, your personal information need to be hidden, but there is no solution yet because it gives you your personal identification. Even your privacy of what you eat on the airports, okay, where you go and all that is also getting impacted with this system. So currently I'm not aware of any system which can hide your personal privacy or a safety.
Okay. Okay, sir. So some work must be there in order to achieve that.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Participants, any participants who want to ask any questions?
Yeah, Makran, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Makran. Nilesh, just for the participants, available. I think most of the people are from the institutes, right? I
Yes.
prefer if someone want to do any pilot with us, right? For their final year or any of the students, right? We have many
Yeah.
ideas coming from the industry, like from Airbus and Daimler and all these companies, right? And just because
Okay.
they are not paid activities, because see, our major interest is the revenue generation, right? As a part of Indus Aviation.
Yeah.
So if any of the college want to do something, right, in association with these industries, please let us know. Okay, and they can have the students working with it. Recently, if you look at the Bangalore International Airport project which I'm talking about, we used cesium map. There is a parallel maps which is like similar to Google Maps. Okay,
Okay.
so it is become very famous now. It's open source, free map systems. Okay, and Airbus wanted to use it. Now I know, even if I develop the skills inside my company, I don't know, there is no future business coming up, right? Because it's just an
Okay.
innovation. Okay, so we developed this project, with one of the college from Nagpur. Okay,
Okay.
so if any of the college wanted to have this kind of a system, we can line up some projects, and you guys can start developing. Only technical guidance will be from there, from our side, but entire implementation you guys can do. And if there is a revenue share
Oh,
later, I think the college can earn that.
definitely, sir.
One
Actually, I am also
one
part
question
of
I'd like to ask.
industry. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Please go
Is
ahead.
it possible?
Sir, these the project which you are talking about, these project are innovative or research projects or what?
No, no. Actually, it's not just the documentation research part. It's basically having a pilot or a POC also need to be developed. So most of our projects are hardware plus software combination.
Hmm.
Okay,
Hmm.
and this can be developed together. But
But
it's just
now the
innovation.
condition is that everybody is working from home, so students are also at their places. So is it feasible to have the project implementation at working
Most
from
of
home?
See, hardware dependency generally comes later. See,
Okay.
even when we are talking about this, right? Even for mechanical guys, I always feel that college are the best product factories, because generally what happens, right? There is nothing like only software, only hardware. It's everything. Like when I was with Infosys, we developed a project for Indian Army.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Yes, sir. Continue. Yes, sir. Continue, please.
So we develop a project for Indian Army, which is basically making the small palm tops, for
Hmm.
Indian Army. Now it
Hmm.
is not just hardware or electronics, and a software around it, right? Even the ergonomics comes in picture. So
Okay.
because we have been given a guidance that it should be only 270 grams weight,
Hmm.
because it has to be put it on the arms,
Hmm.
and the weight has to be, because we are very specific. Why we are asking Indian Army why only 270 grams, and they say no, every weight of everything has been finalized, because if you increase more weight, then it will impact the soldiers' capacity of going to certain things, right?
Hmm.
So there the role of mechanical engineers or production engineers comes in picture. Who can design, you can have a good ergonomics design. Even for the
Hmm.
hardware IoT devices which you are using, also having a lot of IP65, 67 compliances coming up,
Hmm.
right? So
Hmm.
which metal to use and all that. So I always feel that the team has to be there. Now coming back to your question, when the people are at home, how can they do
Hmm.
it? But I don't think the situation will last till I think first semester maybe at home, maybe second semester we
Hmm.
hope that it should open up, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
another thing
Okay.
is what I always feel that you should not only focus on a final year, 1 year project. You should have
Hmm.
people coming from second year, third year, so that a
Hmm.
continuity can happen. Because as a part of industry, we always feel 6 months is not a time where you can develop an entire system. People take years and years to develop a system,
Yeah,
right?
that's the
So
actually
it
that should be there. Right from the second year, students should take the project, and it will be continued up to the final year, and so then only
exactly,
the good product and will develop.
because you should talk about product development, not just a project development. Project can be
Yeah.
like I can buy something outside, and develop it as a project. That doesn't mean that you take care of everything as a product, right?
Okay. The projects you are talking about, they are multidisciplinary project or only mechanical orientation
No,
is
no,
there? Or,
it's all multidisciplinary. They're industrial projects, so it cannot be like
okay.
just a software or mobile application. It will also
Okay.
include the hardware development and all that. See, recently we have developed something for Indian Railways, to
Huh.
track the biotoilet sanitization.
Hmm.
Okay, so
Hmm.
it also includes the hardware and the software both.
Yes, yes. And actually, the scenario is that the all the branches have to work together, and then only the
Yes,
development is there. That
yes,
is the
yes.
yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely, we will contact you, sir. Definitely. And thanks for sharing the and opening the opportunity for all of us. Thanks a lot.
sure. Thanks.
Hello.
Yeah,
Yes,
So
sir.
can I ask one question?
yeah.
Yes,
Please
sir.
go ahead.
Please.
Yeah.
Uh, I just want to know what type of IoT hardware we generally has to be studied by the students or the uh, faculties, so that they can be used in the all in the high-end applications also. Raspberry Pi is one of the choice.
Yeah. So
Any
I'll
other
tell you.
as per
I'll
your
tell you
as
the
per your
industry
ideas?
need. I'll tell you the industry need
Huh.
actually. See,
Yes.
we were talking to Koyal, which is like a Kirloskar oil engine in Kagal. Okay, and there is one more company in you know this Kirloskar Wadi, which is like the Kirloskar Engineering Limited. Now,
Yes.
it's out of the aviation topic, but just to give you some glimpse where the industry is going. So, when you talk about Industry 4.0, right, which is called a smart factories, right, there is a very big opportunity to connect the existing PLC systems which are not IoT enabled to make it IoT enabled. Okay, that means
Yeah.
the existing PLC are just getting the data and putting it to the MES, which is like manufacturing execution systems or MRPs, right? Now there is no mechanism right now, and if one of the college or institute wanted to invent or do some exploration in this, is how the existing PLCs can be connected with add-ons plugins which can collect the data and transmit through maybe Wi-Fi or Bluetooth to a centralized collection systems. So this is another opportunity, for the college to do some innovation and making a standard device. Now everyone is coming up with their own plugin. For example, Fanuc will come its own, other PLC will come its own and all that, right? But you can develop your own standardized system which can be get plug-in. Now Kirloskar oil engine wanted, a small device which can collect to their DC generator sets and give the data over the net, and then get that maintenance record collected. Now these are small projects, which are there in the industry, but there is no standardization, and Raspberry Pi and Arduino boards are something, which are very primitive. So if you talk about using the industrial application, this will not sustain. What I feel is
Yes.
that, what I feel is that you need to talk to certain industry. For example, you can talk to the Libelium, which is another big wireless sensor network company. Okay, talk to them, get their platforms, and as a part of institute interactions, they will give this free of cost to you to do some research. As I said, Airbus BizLab is very much interested to tie with the companies or institutes, right? So they do innovations, right? And when they do innovations, they can basically, get, they can do innovations and they can help you in giving everything, hardware and everything to you. So better to work on industrial grade processors and devices rather than doing on a very small or new device. Because see, Raspberry Pi, if you take a POC and go in the market, no one will appreciate that. Second thing is, it
Yeah.
not just it's not just a circuit working or communication is working. It's also you need to design the things saying that what is your battery. The beacons which are available with us has a battery life of 3 years. So you can
Yeah.
understand the kind of power optimization and everything they do, impacting the battery life as well, right? So people
Yes.
are looking for more reliability, more robustness of the hardware also. So as a part of projects, one should not just focus on you know a small devices happening or hardware available in the market. You should also try looking at where the industry is going, what are the industrial products which you can use. And for institute like you, I think it's available at free of cost. You don't have to pay anything. Every company has its own program, to tie with institutes.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank
Anyone else?
Okay, participants, if anybody wants to ask the question, please unmute yourself and then ask your question.
That means, sir, standardization is a important issue or important point in IoT, because every company is doing their own. It's going to handle the project individually by their own way, but there is no standardization in the IoT devices right now.
Yes, right now protocol is almost finalize, like, the way that you communicate. Okay, like for example, the communication mechanism, like either Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, or NFCs and all that, it's all there, but there is no way of standardization in terms of how you handshake with each other, right? So I feel that, and just to give you some idea about how it's happening in the semiconductor industry. See,
Hmm.
the removal of, like, in semiconductor, when you manufacture chips, there are many processes inside, like there's something called chemical vapor deposition, there's something called rapid thermal annihilation and all that stuff, right? Now every device is communicating with each other, and they define a very standard way of communication. It's called semi standards or semantic standards. Similar to that, there is nothing in IoT right now. At least I have not heard anything which says you replace this device with this one, and all your work starts. You always need to have custom implementation or custom interface for everything, except the communication transport mechanism is same, like Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, or but data
That means,
standardization happen.
okay. Sorry, continue, sir. Continue.
No, I said data standardization is still not done.
Okay, that means there is a need to have a device which will take input from any communication channel and
Yes,
convert it into a standard format and provide the output to the any kind of a device. That
yes,
standardization you are talking about.
yes, yes. For example, if I have three companies PLCs, for example, right?
Hmm.
I want to make it IoT enabled.
Hmm.
Okay, now I need to have certain mechanism that I can connect through USB, or I can connect through serial port or whatever, my
Hmm.
device, right, to the
Hmm.
PLC, get the
Hmm.
data in that format and transfer it in a standard way to my collecting collecting system, right? So there is
Okay.
no, like, you can develop a layers in between which can
Hmm.
talk to various PLCs in the market and
Hmm.
say, okay, upper X PLC is giving me this data in this format, convert it, transport it, and transfer it in a standard way, right? So that
Hmm.
anyone can read it in fashion. It can be a JSON format, it can be anything, right?
Okay.
But
Okay.
but format can be same. For example, I get X from this, but I always output Y out of my IoT system, right?
Okay. Okay.
Currently, there's no
So there,
standardization right now.
So there is a bigger opportunity and challenge also to have the such kind of a device.
Definitely, yes. Take
Okay.
an example
Okay.
of AC, right? So you might
Huh.
have a lot of old ACs which are not IoT enabled.
Hmm.
Okay, you connect certain systems to that, and then transfer data in a standard way where your existing MRPs or existing IA, artificial intelligence systems can interpret that data.
Hmm. 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 Yes. Yes. Okay. Thank you, sir.
So is there any issue of interference, noise interference in high-end applications like in aviation industry? Because so
Yes,
many signals are there.
yes. So that's what I said. There is a big
Do
compliance
you
issue. Hmm?
do you
Sorry.
face that? Do you face that type of problem while actually implementing the things?
Yes. So as I said, if you're trying to use for example, RFID, right? Now there are two type of RFIDs, right? One is called active RFID, which emits its own signals, keep on emitting its own, and there are passive RFIDs, right? So active RFID has a lot of limitations in using in aviation systems because it can affect the navigation systems inside. So,
Yeah.
so we face a lot of issues when it comes to such kind of implementation. But then again, as I said, there is a compliance industry. You need to get your hardware validated from two people. One is the civil aviation authorities, and second is the aircraft manufacturers. Unless you get your hardware validated by these guys, you cannot put it into the system. So there are standards for the compliances. You need to make sure that your EM interference is less, which is not impacting your existing wiring system. Second, it can also make sure that you are not emitting any unavoidable frequencies which can be traced by your navigation systems. But nowadays, if you look at most of even the navigation systems are very, very robust. Earlier, you might have heard that there is no Wi-Fi allowed inside the aircraft. Now you can
Yeah.
have, we already have Wi-Fi in the aircraft now, and you can communicate over the KU band to the ground station. So slowly,
Thank
even aircraft systems are becoming more and more robust to mitigate those navigation interferences.
Good morning,
thank
sir.
Yes.
Hello. Good morning,
Yeah.
sir. So, all these advances, what you are talking it about in the IoTs, how it is relating to the industry 4.0, all these aircrafts and all that technology, what you're talking it about, how it relating to the industry 4.0?
It's very much, because if you look at what is Industry 4.0, Industry 4.0 is, have two major aspects of it. One is the diagnostic part, and second is the customer satisfaction part. Now, when you talk about Industry 4.0, okay, we were doing similar programs for one of the Kirloskar projects, where people order pumps, right? For example, okay, water pumps, they order. Now, when you order a pump from a sales point, right? That means from a sales who converts the order till the time you deliver, right? The product has to be planned, right? Till end. Now, your customer, when you say, I am going to deliver my product in 3 months, okay, customer also should know there are 4 steps where your product lies right now, where your order lies, how you expose this interface to the people or the client. Okay. So similar thing, like for example, take example of a Rafale aircraft deal right now in India, right? We order Rafale aircrafts. How do you know
Yes.
when we are going to get the delivery? It's all some
Mm-hmm.
verification something like that, right? Where we are at what stage? So the industry 4.0 enabled your factory, or it's called smart factory, which has all the data available of your supply chain, your subcontracting mechanism, okay, your delivery mechanism as well. And it also impacts you. What is your sales profit margin coming up? Say, for example, in the month of January, you ordered something, right? You got an order of say
Yeah.
10 million, right? Now, you on a stage 3, you supply something to your subcontractor to get it back, right? And your subcontractor has not delivered the part to you on time. What is happening because of that?
Okay.
Your delivery is getting delayed. When your delivery is getting delayed, okay, your payment is also getting delayed, right? Now,
Mm-hmm.
you also have people line up for certain things. So you are going to get an expert of quality in the month of say June, where you expected that the project will basically end up in testing phase, but your subcontractor delayed it. Now, how will you track it? Smart factory, all using sensors. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
when the product comes out of your system, it get recorded. When the product comes into the system, it get recorded, right? And every
Okay.
data
Okay.
is basically feeding you back to your supply chain management. Okay, where you are from a delivery perspective today. So, when we talk about of company where they wanted to develop spares. Now there was an alloy combination, they need to use 3 metals so that they can make an alloy out of it. Now the
Yeah.
inventory of one alloy one metal was not available, and that delayed the entire delivery part of it. But the client also know they also need to plan it properly. So if similar systems can be implemented using in a smart factory or a or industry 4.0, where you are tracking every part cycle, every stages you are tracking your inventory properly. Okay, and that is helping. So industry 4.0 is not just process implementation or efficiency. It also includes your inventory management. You know, so if
Yeah.
you don't have
Yeah. So
spares
this.
available,
Uh,
uh,
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Continue. Yeah.
so if your inventory is less today, okay, when to order? What is your minimum, level inventory available so that you can order it? There is no even point in stocking the items, when you don't need those so soon, right? So it's again spending more money in just keeping the inventory idle. So these are many such, things which get implemented in Industry 4.0. But to implement this, you need data from everywhere. Okay, like
Okay.
when
So
you
that
start.
that is, so that is trying to make it closed loop and the making all the things available through the sensors into the
Right.
platform like cloud and all that, so that
Yes.
all the things will go in hand, so that
They're trying
delivery
to
and
reduce
supply
paperless,
chain
right?
management.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're trying to reduce paper. See, what generally people do, they get the paper written and put the data into Excel sheets, right? And then you take
Yes.
your
Yes.
own mind to do analysis. So now system will give you analysis. See, I don't know how much time we have, but I'll tell you a very interesting application which Indian Army we started developing it. It's called MSDF, and that's called multi-sensor data fusion. Some of you might have heard about that as well. Okay, this MSDF is a very interesting thing, you know. So MSDF is basically collecting the data from multiple sensors. So on the border, you have say a binocular, right? Which you see. Then there is a radar, you know, which also gives you data. Then there are people who say, okay, मैंने 3 tank देखा. Okay. Now he will also say, I saw 3 tanks, right? Someone says, I saw 5 tanks. Radar says there are 6 tanks. So how many are actual tanks on the border, right? So it's basically what it does. There are 7 levels of MSDF. That's called multi-sensor data fusion. So you collect the data, you process the data, you tell that, okay, someone saw 5 tanks, someone saw 3 tanks, some other guy saw 7 tanks, but actually there are only 4, right? Because everyone has got some noise also in the information, right? You correct it and you say there are 4 tanks. Now, out of the 4 tanks, what is my threat level? Okay. Based on that, okay, whether to use missile, whether to use aircraft, whether to use missile. So decision making is made by the system. The data you feed in. Exactly the same thing which is happening now in Industry 4.0. Decision, the system will give you 4 decision making things, right? This is the way you do it. This is the way you do it. Now, one of the option you have to choose as a person. It will only give you, you know, the pros and cons of every option.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
नाही पण ह्याचा रेकॉर्ड यायला लागेल ना ऍडमिटेड टू पोस्ट ग्रॅज्युएट.
Hello.
Hello. Yes.
Yeah, this is Supriya Duran. I just want to know about that you said you can give a projects to the students. So I think I just missed last slide. Maybe you have given a contact. So can you share your contact details so we can?
Yes, I think Nilesh, can you share it or shall I just show it on the screen?
Yeah, I can share it. Means of course with your permission.
No.
Yeah, yeah. I will share with all the participants.
Sure.
Contact details.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Anyone else?
I think Nayan Rao wants to say something.
Yeah, Mr.
So please unmute yourself and then ask your question.
I think he has to unmute.
Yeah.
So my question is, what are the latest advances in the sensor technology, which are used in aviation or which are used in domestic purposes also? Right now, we are facing the situation of COVID-19, and we require the advanced sensing technology in the COVID equipments. Hello.
Yeah. So what I have seen in last almost 6 to 7 days, there is one device coming up from Kinetic Engineering.
Yeah.
Hello. Hello.
Hello. I am listening.
Last 6 to 7 days. Let me see if I can share the device picture.
Yeah. Share.
Let me see if I can do that. So there are 2 parts of it. One is there is something called silver nanotechnology, you know, which is coming up. Okay. Now this silver nanotechnology, recent report on German thing which says that within 2 minutes it can deactivate the virus. Okay. And with the COVID-19, 1 second. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
So this
No
is
doubt.
this is the last device which I have seen 3 days back. It's basically developed by Kinetic Engineering. And you move this rod around in the room.
Yeah.
And in 100 square foot, it can kill all the virus.
Yeah, that is good. So
Deactivate.
one more question, sir, please. Is there any composite material used as a sensor in sensor technology? Composite material?
Right now, I have not heard of it, but yes, everyone is basically going towards that because you want lightweight. Drones are the another thing, which is basically people wanted lightweight and all that thing to come out, right? So carbon fibers and everything, right? That's what you're talking about, right?
I think there is a huge scope for this nanocomposites materials for the sensor technology. I think the technology must be advanced in this area. Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you. Kindly share this figure in your presentation software.
Sure.
Hello.
Yeah,
You share.
I'll send it.
Yeah. Either you send it to my mail ID or you can accommodate this picture in the your presentation.
Yes, I'll send it to Nilesh.
Okay, thank you.
So it says kills virus in 15 seconds.
Oh.
Okay. I don't know. We have not tested it, by the way, but it's just getting promoted in the last 3 to 4 days.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Good thing. Yes.
Okay. So
Nilesh, are we done or we are expecting some more questions?
Yeah, I'm just checking it out if somebody raised their hands or not. I think yeah, that will be enough for the day, I think. Sir, whatever content you want to share, just share it with me on my email ID. I will share it with all the participants.
Sure. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, definitely. Means that, yeah, we take first consent from the speakers and then only we share it.
No worries. It's all ours. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. Yeah. Okay, sir. Yeah. I think Manoj Joshi, sir. Yeah, you take.
Yes. On behalf of Indian Senior School of Engineering, Department of Electronics and Mechanical Engineering, I would like to thank Atul Joshi sir for sparing his valuable time over here and giving us a very nice and important information in aviation about the IoT which is used in aviation industries. All the latest information we could get from you, sir, and we thank you very much for being with us for this particular session. All the participants, I would like to tell you that for the next session, we'll be coming back again at 2 o'clock. Over to you, Nilesh Patil, sir. So we'll be back at 1:45 or 1:50.
Sir, there is no feedback link put up on Telegram for first this session.
Okay.
Just in few minutes.
Yeah.
We will put
Okay.
that
Thank
in just few minutes. Okay. Okay.
Thank
Don't worry.
Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, sir.